Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Prey on the GeForce GTX 1060, 6GB for FPS margin. I'll be using CAM. If you want to download this software, there's a link down in the description, and if you want to purchase any of the parts featured in this build and support the channel, there are Amazon affiliate links down in the description too. So Prey, I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and 4K. To skip any of those sections of the video, check the description below. I'll be using a G4560 and an i5-7400. The G4560 will be used just for the 1080p section of the video. Then I'll be testing the i5 with 1080p, 1440p and 4K. When I go over 90 frames per second, sometimes the Pentium holds back the GTX 1060, so I want it to be more realistic. I expect more people to have an i5 paired with a 1060 than a G4560 with a 1060. But don't worry, if you want to play at 1440p or 4K, you can do so on the G4560 too, so don't worry about that. So first at 1080p, I'll be using the maximum settings, and you'll see that I'm over 60 frames per second pretty much all the time, so no problems there. Then at 1440p I lowered the settings in order to target 60 frames per second. If you want a more stable frame rate there, I recommend overclocking the GTX 1060. And finally at 4K I was able to reach 30 frames per second by overclocking the GTX 1060. Check the core memory clocks down in the description if you're interested. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did here. So this game, compared to Dishonored 2, is using a different engine. This time they're using CryEngine, and I'm surprised how the game runs, considering it's a CryEngine title. Those are usually poorly optimized, but they did a pretty good job with how the game runs overall. Compared with Dishonored 2, Dishonored 2 was a mess. I think that's because the engine they were using was quite unoptimized. So from the options menu, I'll tell you which are the settings that cause the higher FPS boosts if you lower them. The first one that I suggest lowering is object detail. That affects the draw distance. If you're using low, you'll see much more pop in than usual. So first I will try medium if you're having performance issues to see how it goes. Then the next setting will be screen space reflections. As usual, reflections are quite demanding, and you can choose between full resolution, half resolution, or just turn them off. Half resolution is not that bad actually. It's a great boost to the frame rate, but turn it off, it's an even greater boost. After that we have the ambient occlusion, which is screen space directional occlusion. That one also should provide a good FPS boost. And after you play with those settings, I suggest lowering shadow quality, but they don't look that much different from medium to very high. They tend to have higher resolutions and higher view distances, for what I could see in that setting. It has very few options, as you can see. On anti-aliasing we only have many variations of SMAA and FXAA. SMAA will look better, that's usually the case, but it performs a little worse. And then on the texture quality we have low, medium, high or very high. If you have a 2GB video card, use medium or low, since on high and very high on 2GB cards, even at 720p, many textures didn't load, so I recommend just avoiding anything past medium on 2GB video cards. Then on 4GB video cards, I use very high, but on some occasions I saw some dips in the frame rate, some very sudden dips, and high VRAM usage. So you might want to try high textures and see how it goes. So I suggest experimenting with that, but if you're past 4GB of VRAM, just use very high and you'll be fine. We are missing an FOV slider, but you can edit the FOV by editing an INI file. You can check a link in the description to know how to change the FOV in this game. The FOV option will be added later in a patch according to the developers, so we hopefully get that option very soon. But for me it just sounds kinda lazy. Was it so hard to add an FOV slider on day one? So those are the settings. As you can see, there are very few settings considering this is a big title, but at least the game runs fine. That's what I take from this pretty much. But I would have liked to see more options, since other CryEngine games have more options into them too. One other thing that I noticed is that when you destroy glass, sometimes you'll see some dips in the frame rate. It seems to be due to the transparency of the glass and what's behind it, so keep that in mind. Sometimes you will see some dips there. And when you load a new part of the level, on the first 5 seconds you'll see a much lower frame rate. For example, if you're targeting 60, you might see 45 frames. After 2 or 3 seconds you'll go back up to 60, so don't worry, it's just that it's loading new assets, it seems. I only use the G4560 on many of my videos on Prey, since it seems to be enough to get 60 frames per second pretty much all the time. It starts limiting the GPU once we try to go past 95 frames per second, something like that. So if you're just targeting 60 frames per second, the G4560 is good enough. It handles the game just fine. I didn't see any slowdown caused due to the CPU, but so far I'm having a lot of fun with it. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Circuit found. Instructions. Too many moving parts. Disintegrated. I shut you down. Disintegrated circuit. Found new instructions. Disintegrated circuit.
Disengage before you can space walk. While engineer was a safety measure, it's irrelevant when the enemy is already inside the station. If you do go out there, I wouldn't stray far. The Typhon may have spread to the exterior. And remember, other airlocks you find will have to be opened from the inside first. Last thing, you don't have a propulsion system for your suit yet. You'll need one to maneuver.
New supervisory override received. They. Disintegrated circuit. Found new.
System integrity damaged.
I'll invest all. Disintegrated circuit. Found new.
Scanning target. No typhon material detected.
Hello, are you here for an appointment? Diagnosing superficial injuries. Nothing a portable medical kit couldn't handle. This won't take long. Good as new. You can fill out a service questionnaire at the front desk.
Descending could be a problem. Disintegrated circuit. Kill your... Disintegrated circuit. Found new instructions. Disintegrated circuit. Found you. Disintegrated circuit. Found new.